We're here with a special edition of The Pitch. Roy Stillwell, the CEO of Nearwave, is with me, but was not able to join our regularly scheduled pitch because of a family emergency. And having just been through a family emergency myself, we didn't want that to be a penalization. So we're here with Roy, who is going to have 10 minutes on the clock to pitch. We will circulate the video to our mailing list audience and also to our judges for review for the pitch judging later this week. So with that, Roy, why don't you take it away? You've got 10 minutes on the clock.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Gene. And again, thanks for accommodating us with the family emergency and whatnot. So yeah, so my name is Roy Stillwell. I'm here with Nearwave, and we're developing a really cool, inexpensive metabolic imager for use in breast cancer. I'm kind of talked about that. So we have an awesome team of engineers, scientists, and business folks passionate about technology for the greater good. That's kind of who our company is. And our vision is to put one of these devices that's shown here in every oncologist and primary care physician's hands in the world. And so we have an awesome team, software engineers, some industrial designers, UI designers, hardware engineers, as well as a really killer advisor board with professionals here and professors at the University of Notre Dame, as well as other universities. We've got a director of breast surgery from an oncologist based in Northwell Health that's on our advisor board, as well as the University of Notre Dame. Got some Idea Center folks helping us out as well. So have a really good team put together. And essentially what we're doing is this: we've got a couple problems we're trying to solve with this device. The first one is in neoadjuvant chemotherapy for breast cancer. So this is after you've for example, been diagnosed with a type of breast cancer, let's say, for example, regional stage 2 breast cancer. The workflow for that typically is you'll undergo an MRI or an ultrasound, and then undergo 3 months to a year in treatment. And then MRI pathology and typically surgery if we're going to do a lumpectomy, for example, or a mastectomy. And so during that time, that 3 months to a year treatment time, there are no imaging systems right now that are monitoring for response to neoadjuvant chemotherapy. And about 33% of women do not respond to the original therapy treatment. And so we think we have an effect on that, and I'll kind of talk about how we would do that here in a second. And then sort of the bigger pie in the sky sort of cool idea here is that using this technology for benign versus malignant detection in cancer. So on the right here, we've got an X-ray mammography image on the left that shows a breast that does not have dense tissue, so you can pick out the cancer lesions there in the middle. And then on the right there, a much more dense type of breast where the cancer lesions are much harder to find. These are much tougher in the X-ray mammography space, and we are agnostic to that imaging. And I'll show you kind of how we do that, where we can show exactly where that is with our technology. So our first sort of claim to fame is that our technology can predict chemotherapy response in 7 days. So this is huge. So essentially what that means is that if the chemo regimen that you're on, or the immunotherapy regimen that you're on, isn't working, your body has a reaction to it. If it doesn't, we can change you to a type of therapy that does. So it's been shown in a number of papers. And we can change that therapy to a different one, of course, increasing survival rates. And then also, if you're not going to respond to any of the types of treatments that are available, we can just get you directly into surgery. So saving a lot of money on chemotherapy and significantly better patient outcomes. And here's an image of essentially what our device can do. On the far left there, you can see a tumor lesion that's sort of a bright red. And then as this person was responding to chemotherapy, which is great, you can see that lesion sort of just melt away. So it's really easy for us to take those imaging intravenously without any kind of ionizing radiation, for example. And so this is the device that we built. It's called the Nearwave Imager, and it's a handheld device. It works kind of like an ultrasound would. You sort of scan it across a surface, and it's non-invasive. It uses low power laser light in a kind of a fancy, it's called frequency domain diffuse optics sort of a way, so if you're familiar with that. But essentially we can quantitatively measure blood, water, and lipid between 1 and 3 centimeters. Actually, there's some newer studies that can go even further than that in tissue. And so that device has been shown in a number of studies to have 90% specificity and sensitivity, as well as for differentiating benign versus malignant tumors, for example. And it's very effective in dense breast tissue, which is about 40% of the women population that are in the are in breast cancer trials and things. So it also significantly reduces potentially unnecessary biopsy. So if we can tell if you have a benign versus malignant tumor, We have a surgeon that talks about this all the time, but every time she touches someone with that needle, it's $2,000 a pop. And it happens a lot. Usually when you have a biopsy, you tend to have more of them. And so we think that's one of the big value propositions that we have with this technology. So we have a multi-channel marketing opportunity. We start small and grow big. So our beachhead is to get this out to researchers. I've got 5 at least research groups that are clamoring to have this thing. And so getting out to those folks, that's a fairly small market, about 2 million. But the idea is to have those guys get out and measure, as many people as we possibly can. And then for the neoadjuvant chemotherapy application, oncologists are our target audience there, groups and hospitals. So that's about a $90 million TAM. And then moving on to the much bigger imaging is, sort of this, the grand idea is having these as imaging modalities that you can have with your primary care physician or your OBGYN, for example, that we can use for adjunct imaging, for X-ray mammography, for example, for a follow-up imaging, saving a ton of money. We're thinking on the order of $7 billion a year in savings, applied across the entire, about 200,000 women that get breast cancer in the United States every year. And so comparing that to other technology that's out there, there's a number of the devices that do this type of imaging. So the first column there is functional imaging, which is what we're considered. So we can look at our contrast as blood. So it's a molecular contrast. And we're able to see water and lipid. And that compares to, let's say, something more traditional like an ultrasound or a mammography that looks at structural information. And so it's a much different type of information that's more information rich. It can, again, detect benign versus malignant there. And the device cost is significantly less expensive than the other devices that are out there like this on the market. It's also a really fast acquisition device, which is why our researchers are just crazy excited to use it. And we'll talk about that in a minute, but really cool technology. And so our plan essentially, this will require FDA approval, obviously. So we have a 510K tissue oximetry indication that we'll be going for at first, and have identified some predicate devices for that in the FDA space, and looking to get those into researchers' hands. We're applying for SBIR. We already got an R01 grant just this last couple months. And then moving on to the main phase, which is our sort of trial phase, the phase 2 neoadjuvant chemotherapy space, where our second indication, neoadjuvant monitoring and potentially diagnostics there with medical oncology groups, surgical oncologists, and then doing a 510K special for that particular application potentially. And what's cool about this is we're designing it in such a way that it's small, it's handheld, and uses similar electronics as a handheld ultrasound device. So we plan on reaching out to licensing folks to co-modal that imaging modality. So you can do both ultrasound, structural information, and then have our functional information in the same type of device, or we can license it. So we have some pathways for licensing partners, Butterfly, Siemens, GE, these guys that are building those type of ultrasound devices. And then the third phase is our big mass disruption, where this device is, in OBGYNs, primary care physicians, Walgreens, imaging folks, and helping, reduce the, cancer deaths, obviously. So multimodality imaging, the cycles are a little bit longer in there for purchasing cycles. They're about 6 months. We sort of have that figured into our plan here. So in market research, we've had a number of interviews that we've had with folks. We got a professor who's literally just buy 10 of them. So I need to finish making them so we can have them. And then oncologists, think it's a killer idea, killer app. Really excited to get it into their hands. And so our business model looks something like this: 8K for our release, sort of pre-release device, which won't necessarily need FDA, approval. We use this in the research space using local IRBs, internal review boards for universities. And then there's a subscription model there that goes along with that for sharing that data and storing that data for you in the cloud. And then the release device, about $3,000, $400 a year subscription, with projected revenue out to 2026 on the order of $160 million on sort of the high side there. And so some milestones on the product side, we're doing a human factor analysis. We've got some amazing industrial designers that have about a decade's worth of or more of medical device experience on our team, and helping us put that together and launch our first research model by the end of this year. Our first 100 sales in 2020, and then our 2022 with our neoadjuvant model 2023, and then the main imaging model in 2025. So our funding right now so far looks like this. Most of our funding has been in non-dilutive funds from university funds, as well as we were fortunate to win the McCloskey competition here at the University of Notre Dame, which is really cool, as well as some other local regional prizes. And then just a couple months ago, we won the Innovation of the Year for the Indiana Mira Awards, which was super exciting, very surprising for us. Really excited about that. And so we've raised about 185K so far, and looking to do a seed round this coming. It's open right now, actually. So we're working on that, closing in August, beginning of August. And of course, SBARs, we'll be flying for those, and then we'll do a Series A round to get that first model up to production level. So got a really good FDA approval process that we think is going to work. Some manufacturing folks that we've identified, and then bring on key personnel, obviously. So this is our prototype device. It looks kind of like this. We have some software that's a prototype software that looks something like that. And we are looking to open our seed round. So 1.3 million with a 6.2 pre-money val cap. And then, doing comps, we're at about 26 to $50 million exits in this space in a 4 to 5 year period, or potentially a little bit longer. And we're looking for advisors. And so if you have any questions, thank you so much for letting me talk, Gene. I really appreciate it. And excited to see where we go with this technology.
Well, that's awesome, Roy. Thank you for doing that, and thank you for being here. And hope everything turns out well with family things. I want to ask you the question that I always ask all of our pitch party participants, and that is, what is the passion that keeps you going? This is not easy. It's not easy to run a startup. It's not easy to jump to all these hoops and to sell the idea. What is your passion?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's pretty easy. So, we're doing a breast imaging device for, breast cancer, and both my mother and grandmother are both breast cancer survivors. So massive social impact. I have no problem being up till 2 or 3 in the morning, coding, doing hardware, making calls, just thinking about those guys. So it makes it really easy. Actually, it's really easy to come to work and work on this stuff with the other colleagues on our team as well. Just the social impact is just, we think, is so high potentially. So yeah, that's an easy one for us anyway.
Yeah. Well, we're thankful you get to work on that, and look forward to this coming Friday, when our judges will review this and our 3 other pitches and render their thoughts and their verdict. Thanks for being with us, Roy.
Yeah, thanks so much, Shane. Really appreciate it.